Hi, this is Paul Tyler, and welcome to another episode of the Reimagine podcast. Laura, good morning.
Good morning. It's great to be back here again, reporting live from the kitchen.
Live from the kitchen in the den. And with us is our good friend and uh, colleague, or I don't know, conspirator in
Partner
doing
in
interesting
crime.
things in the insurtech space. Doug, hey, listen, thanks so much for being our facilitator for panel number one on reimagining retirement. Laura, do you want to sort of talk about what we've been up to?
Sure. So last week, and you can check it out in our previous podcast recording, last week we hosted a Reimagining Retirement Forum. So it's the first forum in a 5-part series where we really dive deep into retirement and what does it mean? How has it changed? What is it potentially going to look like? And who are the people who are going to help shape that space? So our first forum kicked off. Doug Roth was our moderator, and we really focused on funding innovation within retirement planning. So we had some interesting guests who had great intel that we'll share with you in today's conversation. But with that, Doug, I don't know if you'd like to share some thoughts, maybe a little bit of a recap of the conversation within the forum and some things that really kind of resonated with you.
Yeah, and thank you both for having me participate in the discussion and moderate the panel with Andy and Cole. I mean, easy conversation to have with those two, right? I mean, they're super smart and really active in the industry, making some really interesting investments and have great track records. So yeah, it was a fun conversation for sure. Um, yeah, and I think that there were some interesting points that were made, right? I mean, I think that we kicked off and it was pretty commonly agreed that life insurance is kind of an underrepresented sector within insurtech investing. Even only a handful of years ago, literally all of the investment was dedicated to and focused on P&C, and only in the last few years has there been investments in life insurance retirement business models. So one would suspect that the entrepreneurial efforts have also similarly followed those trends. Initially really focused on P&C, and only in the last handful of years trying to tackle some of the challenges and problems and areas of opportunity within life and annuity and retirement. So, uh, I think that presents some great opportunities as well. The investors in the space, the entrepreneurs in the space, and the carriers can all look at now several years of successful as well as failed ventures and business models and learn from them. And in many times, second mover advantage trumps first mover advantage, right? You can learn so much from someone who's paved the way, and you don't have to bushwhack and make the market. You can really just reap the benefits of someone that has created that market ahead of you and generated that awareness. And so there's probably lots of lessons to learn from all of the investing that's gone on in the P&C space, and hopefully life insurance carriers can learn from it. So
Yeah, I love your idea, learning from those lessons and the business models that failed. If you kind of went through and said, like, what are the business models that sound good, but you know what? It's when you actually try to do them, it's just they're too complicated to pull off. They're forgetting or not responsive to structures in place. I mean, how do you think about the those the models we should pursue?
right. Well, and I think that it's obviously life and retirement is so much different than P&C, but the common elements are probably areas to focus on in terms of distribution and um, uh, underwriting. I think the engagement for an auto insurance carrier is going to be so much different than a life insurance carrier, right? I mean, like the time span between points of contact have traditionally been so much longer in life insurance than, say, an auto or home or gadget insurance or something like that. And I think that they have a lot to learn and a lot of opportunity to try and deliver value between the point of underwriting and the time of a claim. And I think that that's probably one of the biggest areas for opportunity and in investment. So, and then there's breaking it down across kind of the process or the value chain in insurance. But I think that there's also other ways of looking at the market and trying to break down where is there opportunity or where should you focus today versus tomorrow. It's certainly not I didn't coin this phrase, but like the 3 phases of retirement. There's the go years, the slow go years, and the no go years. And what I've seen a lot of investment and activity, entrepreneurial activity in is in that third no-go years, right? Which is probably when folks are looking to stay in their homes longer rather than go to a senior living facility. And there's a ton of technology, whether it's wearables or technology in the home to enable that to happen. But there's other phases of retirement, and people need to have different models and different sources of capital saved up to address those other phases as well. So, a lot of different sort of frameworks to look at the industry and figure out where is their opportunity and where can we learn.
No, I think you go ahead, Laura.
Oh, I was going to say, one of the interesting things, Dave Miles from Manchester Story, in the conversation, he was talking about, there's certain aspects of consumers' wants, consumers' needs, and looking at, tools, technical tools and engagement. It's like you have the do it for me, where you have someone, you need them to do it for you. There's certain things you want to do for yourself, but then there's that combination of, I want you to do some of it, I want to still have control of part of it, and together with technology, we'll solve the thing. Right. So I think it's interesting that you mentioned the 3 stages of retirement, because from what we've seen, Family Eye, for example, is a company that's come through the Upward Labs, and it's focused on that 3rd stage of retirement. But to your point, I don't know that I'm familiar with anybody in the first 1 or 2 stages, and that could be a big opportunity, especially with the silver tsunami, as they say, that's going to be coming up pretty soon.
Yeah, no, it's a great point, and I think that obviously in the go years, it really, one would think all you need is capital to kind of do the things that you've now always dreamed about doing in retirement, versus in the next phases you're looking for a little bit of assistance, and there are business models to help fund long-term care or again aging in place, but other than sort of traditional retirement products, what's really helping in the go years. And I'm sure that there's opportunities to innovate there. So.
Right. Well, just can I ask you a leading question on that one? Is Doug, I see let's see, age tech, prop tech. I haven't seen, and maybe I just haven't looked. I should, if it's shame on me, but I haven't seen a Retiretech category yet. Why not?
Well, let's coin the phrase right now, right?
It's happening right here.
File a trademark, Laura.
December 3rd, 2020.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a discussion. Andy had shared his opinion. Why has it taken this much time?
It was a super interesting point that was made by Cole and Andy that I just hadn't thought about it in this way, but it rings true, and that's I think there are entrepreneurs from all walks of life and from all demographics, but I think entrepreneurs sort of gravitate and try and solve problems that they've encountered, and that they have faced. And I think when you're a younger entrepreneur, you haven't faced retirement yet, and so it's still a very amorphous problem. And I think that you're not going to have a lot of entrepreneurs, younger entrepreneurs, solving problems that they themselves won't experience for 30, 40 years. So I thought that was kind of an interesting point, right? I mean, only the boomer generation who is entering retirement age at this point in time and may have realized they didn't save enough. They didn't put in place the things that they needed to really make retirement more comfortable. It may be kind of too late for them to become an entrepreneur and start a business in that sense. And so I just thought that was an interesting point that Andy and Cole made about who's starting these companies and who's trying to solve these problems. And perhaps because they haven't experienced them, they're not trying to solve them yet.
Sounds like
Yeah,
an interesting opportunity, right, Paul? So maybe what we need to do is to collect a bunch of boomers who are facing these problems, use it as a study group, right? Kind of learn what needs to be done in those first two segments of retirement, and then put some of the entrepreneurs on it who of any age who may have interest in it. But one of the comments that I wrote down from the conversation was the question around what problems do you fall in love with? And I think it goes back to what you're saying is how can someone fall in love with a problem they have nothing to do with or have not
Right.
yet experienced? And I think it's
exactly.
interesting. I don't have the statistics, but I'm sure if we were to look at them, it might show that a higher percentage of the entrepreneurs within this space or space not yet defined likely are not within that demographic.
Yeah, I think I think the entry point really will be the one that Farron encountered, which was he had to deal with his parents, right? And he sort of found the problems through his parents and got there. And I think this is where I think Retiretech is a very kind of interesting term. And we've put our program together. We've very taken a very broad definition. Could be, as you say, aging in place, because that actually reduces the amount of money you need to spend potentially in retirement, which
Right.
solves the problem, right? We're, kind of going back to the adage, people don't want to buy a drill, they want to buy the hole. The drill
Right.
in a lot of instances are the products we make, annuities. Oh my gosh, what are annuities? Do we need another annuity? Well, we probably need better ways to solve some of the holes for people. And I kind of think that's where we're looking very broadly at the retirement area. But I guess switching over to themes. I mean, Doug, in terms of how in your head, if you were taking great notes and sort of synthesizing a lot of this information. What are the big themes there? If I'm going to bet on this silver tsunami or aging 2.0 or whatever, Paul's Retiretech and Lars Retiretech, how do you slice it up?
Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the important pieces for early stage investors, and for insurtech, just because you're early, is recognizing there's sort of the market adoption cycle, the S curve, and it's going to be a number of years before your company or your portfolio company is getting to the point of great scale. And so what problem are you trying to solve today? If you're trying to solve a problem for boomers today, and the ability to age in place, you need something a little bit more mature, because it's happening today and the market is huge today. Whereas if you're trying to start invest in something that is solving a problem that's 3, 5, 7 years, that's kind of generally the life cycle of a early stage business. I mean, you need to predict the future. So what is the problems that we're going to be encountering in that time frame? And then you can get a little bit more aggressive on new technologies and business models and things of that nature. So I think in terms of the themes, there are some mature technologies and and sort of known business models that will work to help with the aging in place. You know, wearables and things of that nature that that work and can be deployed. But you know, really getting innovative in business models for retirement of you know, 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, those who are just entering the workforce, and getting them to start saving today for those sort of compounded returns. Then I think you can get really, really innovative because you know, you've got the timeline to develop and grow and iterate. So.
Yeah, one of the things I heard in the conversation was a lot about education, right? So we're all virtual, digital, whichever term you want to use for it. And I think we will be for quite some time. And then as we look forward to the future, I don't think we're ever going to go back to 100% in person. Now, all that we've learned with what we can do being in front of or behind a screen, whether for better or worse. So my curiosity too, and I think there would be opportunity in this, is the education around these types of things we're talking about at a higher level. So even in yesterday's forum conversation, millennials kept coming up, Gen Z kept coming up, and it's a group of people who may or may not receive the same level of education on finances, why it's important to save, how to save quickly. Gamification came up a lot in conversation. How do you attract a certain group of individuals or an age set into learning more to help themselves down the line? And I think that that's something that is going to be interesting to watch to see how it evolves, because a lot of that was taking place on technology anyway. But now that it's opened up and become a broader scope for those being engaged in it, I think it's going to be an opportunity for someone, if they can do it right, to really get people on board with thinking about retirement when they may have waited 10 or 20 additional years before even having the conversation.
Right. And, you know, and I think that, you know, to our earlier point about, you know, sort of the demographic or the makeup of the entrepreneur solving problems they fall in love with, generally because they've got firsthand experience with those problems. I think what is also true is sort of alluded to you by your comment, Laura, and that's, if we're trying to solve problems for these different sort of named generations, Gen Z and people who are 55 plus and you know, decades of experience in the industry, can they really solve the problems for that younger generation? Right. I mean,
Can
like
they
I
solve
grew
it?
up without a computer, right?
Sure.
And so and without a mobile phone and without the internet. And so how can I just think differently than someone who's literally born with an iPad, right?
Yeah, right.
And knows no other world other than a fully connected world. So
I
Well,
think that might be the second mover advantage though, right? So as a millennial, maybe if I were wise enough to take advantage of the second mover situation here, where we have this entire subset of individuals who have been in industry, who have had experience for decades, I think if we didn't take advantage of that, use the pieces that people are learning, and then integrate that into what the future could potentially be, I think that would be a loss.
yeah, well, but I'm telling you, the world is changing so quick, and you know, we talked about Doug. This is, you know, sorry to refer to one meeting we had yesterday, but it's on the brain. You know, I look at our website, and you know, of course, we're focused on the older demographic. You know, younger people, and I'll sort of, you know what, I'll kind of wind myself back into this, but just take a step back. You know, younger generation, the biggest problem is debt. You know, you got most of these kids have kids. That's how old I am. Massive student debt. How do you pay that off, right? And in fact, you know, Jackie Bamman, who was on from our department, talked about, well, yes, companies can help match and pay off student loans, but it's basically diverting money from 401k match into your student loan, okay, and their whole payments. So their whole kind of interesting issues. So you're really deferring savings in some ways at the workplace to pay down debt over here. And the other one, you say, well, couldn't I just get like a little tiny annuity that every time I run my credit card, I've got, you know, X number of cents goes to my annuity? Well, those are big bets for our industry to make, right? That, you know, first of all, to set up an account, right? Just a an annuity or 401k costs this much, costs this much money. You're going to put in little nickels and dimes, and I've got to count on you doing that, Doug, for the next 20 years before I break even. You get a very weird mismatch between proving a business model out and the time horizon of even an insurance company to make a bet on some of these newer products. So you got those factors happening in this younger demographic. Now, shift to the older one, though, the behavior's changing just unbelievably. Like I would say, I looked at the stats before, actually real time on our event, and realized like the last 7 days, I think if you look at the customers 55 and up, like 60% or 70% of them come to our site off their mobile phone. Interesting, right?
Yep.
Now, literally, if I looked a little distracted here, it was because I didn't shut off our online web chat. While you were on here, Doug, I had a woman tell me how much money she has in her 401k, the amount of income. She's 58 years old. I won't give you any more information on this. Okay. Wanting to know how her product works. Okay. And I think, Laura, this is, again, we're doing a lot of experimentation around the psychology. I've got her to agree to come up on a Zoom meeting with me after the show.
meet the customer where they are.
Right
now, is that, how do you invest in something like this? I mean, it's Zoom, it's online chat. Andy made the comment, there really isn't new tech, a lot of this technology exists. It's just, how do you switch it together? Where's the, also he said, customer engagement is probably the number one value prop. Can you invest in that? Can you invest in Paul doing online chat, right? In a effective manner? How do you invest in something where I'm cobbling together 15 different pieces of off-the-shelf technology into a business that's new?
Yeah, man, I think that it's not a invention risk. You're taking sort of market risk, and again, it's and I think this is the point, Laura, you mentioned it, what was said in the session with Andy and Cole: fall in love with the problem, not the solution. And so don't fall in love with the tech, fall in love with the problem. What is the problem? The problem always should be something with the customer. So like, what are you trying to do for them, improve for them, or some pain point that you're trying to remove from their life? And who cares what the technology is? Who cares what the business model is? As long as you're solving that for the customer. I mean, you hate to be cliche with Field of Dreams, but like, build it and they will come. If they recognize they have a problem and want to have that problem solved, if you solve it, that they'll come find you. The tricky thing is making sure, as an investor, making sure that those things exist, and it's a need to have, not a nice to have. That the market is pulling, and you're not having to push and educate. That Paul, you've got this problem. You don't know it, but you've got this problem, and I can solve it. Like, that's a hard sell, because I have to convince you, A, that you've got the problem, B, this is a solution, and C, I'm the one that, of all the maybe potential solutions, I'm the one that you should buy it from. That's a hard sell. So your point with the 58-year-old with 401k and looking to do some things. I mean, whatever her issue is, if she feels like she doesn't have enough saved, and she now kind of behind because the earning potential is diminished. If you can somehow solve that problem, that's a business model. That's a business to invest in. So, but you kind of started by talking about things are moving so quickly, and I think that it's an opportunity and it's a problem. I think in insurance and life insurance, it can be problematic. My background way back when was in telecom, and technology moved very quickly. Product life cycles were accelerating and shortening. But you had these, in your world, in insurance world, it's regulatory bodies. In the telecom world, it was standards bodies. And the standards bodies always lagged behind technology. The standards bodies were trying to ensure that you pick up the phone and call a telephone, any telephone on any network in the world can connect to that telephone, right? Um, in insurance, the regulatory bodies are trying to make sure that the products are sound, there's no fraud and so on and so forth. But technology is moving so quickly. Business models are adapting to a digital world and alternative sources of data and AI. I mean, are the regulatory bodies keeping up so that super creative entrepreneurs are coming up with innovative solutions to these real problems, but can they implement them given the regulatory regime?
Right. Well, listen, I think this is fascinating. Now, it's a little bit of a shift from us, because but actually kind of natural to us to focus on retirement just because of the business we're in. Laura, what are the questions we have for Doug? I think we're close to the top of our time.
Yeah, we're close to the top of our time. I think for me, I'd want to ask just so everyone knows, because I'm sure they're thinking it. Big suspense, right? How do they get in touch with you, Doug? So, to continue this conversation, we've heard a lot, we've learned a lot, we've referenced previous podcasts. We're going to have upcoming podcasts from the other forums. But if someone's out there thinking a lot about, oh, this resonates, I want to know more, I want to get engaged, how can they contact you?
Yeah, so obviously the Connecticut Innovations website's a great place to start. So ctinnovations.com. I'm listed on there, and contact information's on there, but douglas.roth@ctinnovations.com is the website, or is the email, and happy to hear from anyone who's interested. I have a lot to learn, so be prepared if you do reach out. I'm probably going to be picking your brain as well. So,
All right. Hey, listen, thanks. And, thanks again, Laura. We'll see. Next forum up is on.
It is on. Dun, 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 dun. Drum roll, please. Next week, we are going to be talking about getting seniors to know, like, and trust us in a virtual world.
I may actually have subject matter to share here, so who knows? All right. Hey, listen, thanks so much. Thanks for listening, and be sure to subscribe or again, give us feedback on topics you think we should discuss. And if you're doing a startup, keep plugging away, work hard. And if you're in the carrier space, please come join us, support us, and help some of the entrepreneurs create a new insurance world for all of us. Thanks.